It's Mo. It is March, and March for me is TBR month. I'm behind on all my TBR videos. I'm behind on videos in general. That's a whole nother story. Today I wanted to do a tag. I almost always do a specific TBR tag for TBR month, usually having to do with my physical TBR, usually having to do with how I organize my TBR, etc., etc. Today I was going to revisit a tag that I did do a very long time ago. I think back in 2021. I'm going to do the Anti TBR tag, or Anti TBR tag. This tag was created originally, I believe, by Monica Kim, and I will link her channel as well as my last version of this before. I've been seeing this video go around again, and I thought it might be a good time to talk about what's not on my TBR and what I will not be reading, and I wanted to do it without watching my previous video. So I did not go back and watch my previous video. I have a feeling I can remember a lot of the books that I already talked about on there. I'm going to try not to duplicate those answers if possible, but we'll have to check afterwards and see. Question number 1 is a popular book that everyone loves that you have no interest in reading. For this, I am going to go with, actually it's over here, just so happens to be right here. I'm going to go with Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. It's not that I have no interest in reading this. I have vague interest in reading this, but I recently did a try chapter where I read a little bit of this book, and I just think this book is not for me. Everyone loves it. My friend Suzanne, she ended up loving it, and I'm sure it's a really good book, and I'm sure Gabrielle Zevin is a really good author. It's absolutely beautiful, but I just don't think that this is a book for me, and it's not that I have zero interest, but I don't have enough interest to read it. Life is too short, and I have a lot of other books that I would rather read before this. You never know, I might change my mind on all these books. Never say never, but I will say that I could always get this book again if I really decide I want it. So I will be unhauling this one. Prompt number 2 is a classic book or author you don't have any interest in reading. I don't think I said this last time, but I'm going to say Stephen King. Yes, he's a classic author, but he is also a current author. This is not a classic as in classics. Not too long ago, I did a video of authors that I'm not going to read from again, and I included King in this. Some people were upset, some people were totally for it. I've read one Stephen King book, and I think that's enough. I don't think I need to read any more by him. If we're talking like really classic, really classic authors, I think we can say almost all of the like Russian authors. Like I don't think I'm ever gonna read Dostoevsky. I don't think I'm ever gonna read War and Peace. I don't think I'm ever gonna read like any of those big classic Russian or Eastern European authors. Prompt number 3 is an author whose books you have no interest in reading. An author whose books you have no interest in reading. An author that I've never read from, and I think their books are not for me. You can go back to some of those classic authors that I've never read. I did use the example of the Bronte sisters and Jane Austen in my last one, and you can say that I still have no interest in reading them. A lot of classic authors I'm not super interested in. Question number 4, prompt number 4 is an author you've read a couple of books from and have decided that their books are not for you. This one's a lot easier. We could say Murakami. We could say Stephen King. We could say Colleen Hoover. I've read one Colleen Hoover book. I don't ever see myself reading another Colleen Hoover book. Again, never say never, but you know. A genre you have no interest in, or a genre you tried to get into and couldn't. I think self-help is a genre that I sort of kind of tried to get into but couldn't, and that I don't really have much interest in right now. There are some productivity books and there are some kind of self-help books that really sound interesting, but every time I try to pick one up, like I can't do it. I've never really successfully read any part of a self-help book of that genre, of that ilk, or even a productivity book of that ilk, and I just find that I don't gravitate towards them, and I just don't think I can get into them. I think spirituality and kind of the self-help that's almost like memoir, that's like an activity that someone's already been through, that they're sharing with you that might help you, is different. I don't usually love those books either, but I think I could get into those more readily. Prompt Drop number 6 is a book that you have bought but will never read. This can be a book that you have unhauled, returned to the library, etc. So we could definitely say Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. We could say Pineapple Street by Jackson. Any of the books that I've unhauled recently in try chapters, which I've been doing quite a few of. These are books that I've picked up and maybe I was like overpowered by the hype. Maybe I thought that they sounded interesting, but when I actually started reading them, they weren't. So there's been quite a few recently. A series you have no interest in reading, or a series you started and DNF'd. I don't know if this was in the last video, but I have no interest in reading like the Sarah J Maas books. I have no interest in reading Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy. I have no interest in reading any of those kind of epic fantasy written by white women that are like romantasy books. The Emily Wilde books I'm not really interested in. There could be like a world, I could see a world where I read Emily Wilde, but I doubt it. And then finally, a new release you have no interest in reading. And this isn't a super new release, but I have been saving this one for the last question, and that is Fourth Wing. I have no interest in reading Fourth Wing or Iron Flame. I did listen to like literally 2 minutes of it when my boss read it and he wanted me to read it, and I was like, I can't do it. I can't read Fourth Wing. So I definitely will not be reading any new releases of those books or in that series. So that was the Anti TBR tag. That was a really quick one, very short. I don't know who's done this tag because it's been around for a long time, but if like me, you did it before and you want to try it again, I would say definitely consider yourself tagged. Let me know if you've read any of the books that I mentioned here, or let me know if you would never read any of the books that I mentioned here. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.